let's check your attendance. So here we see all the participants. So all names are present. So now all the 70 students joined. Okay. So users joined late. Okay. So please guys don't write in chat here, so because this chat will be necessary for you checking of your attendance. So spoiling this, you bother guys. Really, I'll now delete you from the chat and put absent. So this chat is only for checking the attendance. So okay, let's start. So connective tissues. So connective tissue, so we will already discussed. So what is a connective tissue? So what is a which types of that blood is already connective tissue, and an example of blood, you remember that it's connective tissue is composed of extracellular matrix and cells itself, and cells are pretty independent from the tissues which are present around. According to definition, the tissue in which cells usually occupy less space than the extracellular matrix, and which serves in most cases to bind organs to each other. So it's and I said you because the connective tissue is actually might be named as a tissue which doesn't serve for transmission of currency, like nervous tissues do, don't responsible for contraction like muscular tissues do, and it is not responsible for covering of environments from one side to another. So and everything else is named as connective tissue. So and that's why. So here you can see the function is to bind organs to each other. So everyone who is lating, guys, so don't late next time. So it will bother you to observe this lecture again if you will ever open it again. So and we classify all these connective tissues into fibrous connective tissue. So 1 minute. Fibrous connective tissue. So why it's not opening? So fibrous connective tissue, supportive connective tissue like cartilage and bones, and fluid connective tissue. So this classification we will discuss later. But now functions. So general functions: binding of organs, support, physical protection, immune protection, movement, storage, heat production, and transport. So, but actually, so it's general explanation of all connective tissues functions. So it includes blood, includes bones, include cartilage, include loose and dense connective tissue. But today's class we will more concentrate on loose and dense connective tissues. So what are they, and we'll discuss it in the rest of our explanation today. Then let's talk about embryonic connective tissues. So embryonic connective tissue, so 1 minute. So what is embryonic mesenchymal tissue? So in previous semester we discussed that we have embryonic mesenchyme, so which is it's mesodermal cells which are produced during the formation of third embryonic layer, so mesoderm, and cells of this mesoderm they form the embryonic mesenchymal cells. And from this mesenchyme will appear the most of our organs. And as in previous lecture we said about blood formation, and they are stem cells of mesoderm, these mesenchymal stem cells. They are responsible for formation of both blood vessels, future blood vessels, and also for blood cells itself. And also in a lot of organs, in most of organs of our body, they are shaped with the help of mesenchymal cells. like kidneys, liver, so all the parenchymal and non-parenchymal organs, they're partially responsible for, so they're partially produced by this mesenchymal cells. And we don't forget, we have mucous connective tissue. So mucous connective tissue is also known as a Wharton's jelly. This Wharton's jelly is also, it's same as mesenchymal cells, but they are present in newborn babies. They're present in umbilical cord. And when after the delivery, so now in some countries, in some clinics, they save this mucous connective tissue for the life, and these stem cells can be used later for might be later. So our technique will be improved, and then we can use this Wharton's jelly for synthesis of new kidney or new liver or new any other
Sir, we
organ
can't
which is
see
required.
presentation.
What's what you
We can't see the presentation, sir.
you can see the print. Sorry, thank you that you mentioned. So this is Wharton's jelly. Yeah, so here I explain embryonic connective tissue, mesenchyme, mucous connective tissue. That's what I talked about. And this Wharton's jelly, so there is stem cells which can be used later in um, can be used later for synthesis of new organs. Okay, that's this lecture is available for you in Google Classroom, so you can read it. But now let's talk about the fibrous connective tissue. So the thing which is known as fibrous connective tissue. And usually we correspond when we say connective tissue, we keep in mind that is fibrous connective tissues. So there and usually all the doctors, all the students forget about this tissue because this function is not typical. Their function is supportion. They provide the media between cells. Yeah, so they're like servant cells. They serve to other organs to facilitate their function. So they're padding between and around organs and other tissues. Provides anchorage and attachment of muscles. Yeah, forms the stroma of organs. So forms a portion of the wall of hollow organs. Now in this semester in anatomy you discussing the anatomy of tissues, yeah, anatomy of organs, and you keep in mind that everywhere you see the subdivisions, everywhere you see that borders between cells, between organs, yeah, and they are made by fibrous connective tissue. And in this, what is typical for fibrous connective tissue? Inside this fibrous connective tissue, we have blood vessels, and the blood vessels, all blood vessels we have in organs, they are they're getting the organ with help of this connective tissue inside this connective tissue. An exchange which happens between epithelial or nerve fibers and muscles fibers. They are going through the connective tissue. So the connective tissue is silent. It provides no function, direct functions of synthesis of something or this, but they are in support of all functions of human body. And some fibrous connective tissue they produce defense and immune surveillance function, while lymphoid and phagocytic cells they are present inside the fibrous connective tissue. Okay, about this will be discussed in next semesters in immunology, in lymphoid system immunology topic. That will be discussed later. Okay, and structure of connective tissue. So first of all the connective tissue is composed of two main components. There are cells and extracellular matrix. And extracellular matrix itself is composed of ground substance and fibers. Ground substance and fibers. So, and now in this, and in the very beginning, we'll discuss first of all cells. Okay. Okay, we have cells which are producing extracellular matrix, and extracellular matrix which is composed of fibers, so like collagen fibers, and ground substance which is present in media. So between them, it's a liquid gel-like material. So let's move forward. And now we'll start the discussion about cells of connective tissue. So in all cells of connective tissue, they are subdivided into two types of cells. They are resident cells and migratory cells. So resident cells, they are derived from mesenchymal cells. So now we discuss from mesenchymal cells, which used to be in this area, and they keep being in this area. So examples are fibroblasts and adipocytes. So later we'll discuss what are fibroblasts and what are adipocytes. But keep in mind we have migratory cells. Migratory cells, they are cells which appeared here after some changes, so after the blood. So they are migrated to connective tissues through the blood. And it's normal, yeah, that in connective tissue some cells are migrating. So inside the connective tissue we have a lot of gaps, yeah, through which cells can squeeze out. And that's why we can find these cells like macrophages, mast cells, lymphocytes, neutrophils, and so on. And their passing goes through these gaps in the connective tissue. Okay, let's talk about fibroblasts. So fibroblast is once again this fibroblasts are resident cells. They are main cells of connective tissue. They are one of the most essential cells of connective tissue because the fibroblast's main action is synthesis of extracellular matrix. It's synthesis of collagen fibers and ground substance, and they maintain the connective tissue on a proper level. So they produce elastic fibers also, collagen fibers. And we have two types of fibroblast, which can be seen here. They're active fibroblast and inactive fibroblast. So active fibroblasts are fibroblasts which are produced in extracellular matrix. So on this diagram, it's visible here. So if it's possible, try to observe this is typical active fibroblast. You see it possesses very huge nucleus and basophilic cytoplasm. Basophilic cytoplasm means that this cytoplasm possesses a lot of ribosomes, and these ribosomes are responsible for synthesis of proteinous components. Yeah, and active fibroblasts they are present in growing tissues, growing connective tissues. For example, it might be so after the injury, or might be so in adolescence. Yes, I mean uh, teenagers which are still growing. Yes, in their tissues we can find more fibroblasts. But in already grown up person, we usually have inactive fibroblasts. Inactive fibroblasts, they are visible here. So they are lacking the cytoplasm. They already produce everything they need, and they don't require any kind of ribosomes. They don't require mm, any kind of cytoplasm. So they are just keep being there, so waiting for the stress. And if stress is present, so might be some injury, these cells are able to change back into active fibroblasts. Yeah, that's the function. So both of them are fibroblasts, but here you see extracellular matrix has already produced, but here extracellular matrix has not been produced yet, so or need to be maintained or need to be resynthesized. So that's why we have active fibroblasts here. Okay, let's move forward. Macrophages. Macrophages are migratory cells which are responsible for digestion. They're responsible for swallowing of bacteria, swallowing of virally infected human cells. So or our own components of tissue. So they're digested by macrophages. So but macrophages they are derived from monocytes. One mental exercise for you. So you remember blood topic, yeah? In the blood topic we have white blood cells, and all of these white blood cells are somehow present in the connective tissue. So, and you remember, so agranulocytes, we have monocytes and lymphocytes, and both of them will be present in connective tissues. Neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils, all of them they're located in connective tissues, but they are named differently. So you see, monocytes in connective tissues, they are named as macrophages, but they are same cells. They are derived from same cells, and their function is similar. They're responsible for digestion of particles, digestion of bacteria and other compounds of the other compounds, other offending agents. And also they have some specific functions like Kupffer cells in liver, might be alveolar macrophages in the lung, or microglia in the central nervous system, or Langerhans cells in the skin. So they are also osteoclasts in bone marrow. They have some particular additional functions. So they are shown here with arrows, these macrophages. They have some additional functions, but main function is digestion, phagocytosis, antigen processing, and also activation of might be allergic or immunity reactions. So like cytokine secretion. So the cytokines are activizing the another leukocytes, and their invitation for them goes with help of macrophages also. Then, structure, it's just heterochromatic oval nucleus with an indentation in the nuclear envelope and marginated chromatin. So here you see this heterochromatic nucleus, oval, and it possesses marginated chromatin, means that chromatin is condensed in margins in lateral sides of the cell. So here it's not very well visible, but it's present. Okay, cytoplasm usually not visible unless it contains phagocytosed material. So this is example of macrophages in liver, so which possess phagocytosed material like hematin. So they ingested the iron, and that's why they are visible. But usually macrophages possess transparent cytoplasm. Then mast cells. Mast cells are analogous to basophils. You remember that basophils are present in the blood, as they're responsible for synthesis of histamine and heparin. Yeah, same function in mast cells in connective tissue. These mast cells are not derived. So you remember in previous lecture someone asked me, so what's the function of mast cells, and so what are mast cells? They are present along the basophils. They are responsible for migration into connective tissues, unlike basophils. Basophils are present in blood. Mast cells are present in connective tissues. But mast cells deliver to connective tissue through the blood. And that's why it's also a migratory cell. And keep in mind that inside we possess a lot of vesicles inside this muscle, and these vesicles containing the histamine and heparin, and they're releasing outside, causing the inflammation in these areas. And they cause the changes in blood vessels. Blood vessels get diluted. Much more plasma components can enter inside this tissue, and also immunity cells are able to enter in this connective tissue, and all this happened in mast cells. So it present because of on the surface of the cells we have antibodies, and these antibodies, so under the stress made by antigens, so they get this process known as degranulation. Degranulation. They lose these granules, which they released outside, and that's how the cell facilitates its function. So structure is round to oval-shaped cells around usually centrally located nucleus, well-defined cytoplasm filled with secretory granules containing immune modulatory compounds, the histamine and heparin, as I said before. So it's well visible here. Yeah, so nucleus and cytoplasm is very brightful. So because cytoplasm contains a lot of these vesicles which are stained in basophilic stains. Plasma cells. Plasma cells are, so we will discuss it in blood formation. Yeah, that lymphocytes, B lymphocytes, when they get activated, they start to secrete antibodies, and they provide the humoral immunity. The humoral immunity, it's immunity made by antibodies. So when antibodies are active, they provide the humoral immunity. For example, T lymphocytes and NK cells, they facilitate the cellular immunity because they kill themselves. They kill it directly by the surface of the cell. But B lymphocytes, they don't kill other cells, but they produce antibodies which later will kill the cell. So that's plasma cell. It's activated B lymphocytes which are responsible for synthesis of antibodies. So structurally, so it possesses also very basophilic cytoplasm, but here you can find this negative Golgi effect. Negative Golgi effect. So you see, Golgi complex is also very evolved here because proper folding of the antibodies is very important for the cells, and that's why near the nucleus we can find this little pale appearance, yeah, pale appeared cytoplasm. So everywhere else we have ribosomes, but in this area, instead of ribosomes, we have Golgi complex, and that's why in microscopic view we can see this pale appearance above the nucleus, and this term is known referred to negative Golgi. This typical feature of B lymphocyte. Then let's talk about the resident cells of connective tissue. There are adipose cells or fat cell. Adipose cell or fat cell is present in media between different organs, and it's also present under the skin. Yeah, it's this in hypodermis. And what is the essence of this cell? So actually, it possesses nucleus and very thin cytoplasm, very thin cytoplasm. And instead of rest of cytoplasm, we have just droplet of fat. This is droplet of fat, which is located inside. And on the real histological review, we can see it like this. So peripheral located nucleus, thin cytoplasm, and white media, like white middle compound of the cell. Directly in the middle, we have only fat. So, and actually, we have two types of adipose cells. They are yellow fat and brown fat. Yellow fat, so all these features we discussed before, they are about yellow fat. So nucleus is a peripheral located, one huge droplet of huge droplet of fat, sorry, and around we have very thin cytoplasm with mitochondria, and the fate of mitochondria here is to destroy this fat in case we require any energy. So that's main function of fat, of course, is storage of energy also, not only padding but also storage of energy. So function, so keep read these functions a little later. So it's easy, you know it, but I don't want to stop on it. And minimal cytoplasm present with mitochondria to destroy this fat if it requires. And as large as this adipose cell, as more fat is collected, as harder it is to burn this fat down. So that's why, so everyone who has some extra weight, so who has extra fat, so you know that it's easy to get this fat, but it's very hard to lose this weight with a dietary or something. So because actually, because mitochondria amounts are not increased, but fat droplet is increased in size. Okay, it's yellow fat. Let's also known as unilocular fat cells. Then we have brown fat. Brown fat, so unlike yellow fat, these cells contain not one droplet, but very dispersed droplets of fats. They are much smaller. So this brown fat is present only in children, not children. In toddlers, in newborns and toddlers. They are present in cheek region, so somewhere under the skin, but not everywhere. So what's the difference? So here we have small droplets of fats, and between these droplets we can find a little mitochondria. And that's why when we split these droplets into small pieces, it's easier to digest it. It's easier to use them for synthesis of ATP. And function of this brown fat is synthesis of ATP and synthesis of energy, especially energy, heat production is the main function of them. And that's it's also common in hibernating animals like bear. Yeah, so bears they live in they collect this brown fat during the summer and autumn, but at winter they fall asleep and they use this stored energy, stored fats for later use. And then we have other white blood cells which are present in connective tissue. There are plasma cells, which we discussed before. Also, there are lymphocytes. They're present in immunity tissues. So like lymph nodes, lymph nodules, and spleen. So we have lymphocytes. Okay, and we have inflammatory cells like neutrophils and eosinophils. And they also migratory, of course, they are migratory cells, same as macrophages, same as plasma cells, so as we discussed before. For example, T and B lymphocytes. T and B lymphocytes are present, so they are spherical nucleuses, yeah, and they are located in sites of potential inflammation. They might form the lymph nodes. They are present in diffuse lymphatic tissue. So everywhere our body can encounter with any kind of injury, any kind of bacterial invasion. So that's, or sometimes they present. So they appeared in the sites where we already had an inflammation. So in chronic inflammation, we can see this picture. So large amount of lymphocytes. Okay, function is similar. So of course, maintaining the immunity. So how it maintains the immunity, we will discuss in pathology. But main idea is that T lymphocytes are cytotoxic, so they directly kill our cells. And B lymphocytes, they facilitate the humoral immunity. And B lymphocytes later produce plasma cells, and these plasma cells producing the immunoglobulins, antibodies. Okay, neutrophils. These polymorphonuclear leukocytes, neutrophils, they are similar as in blood, but in blood they are present normally. But in connective tissue, neutrophils are present only, once again, only in case of acute inflammation. And this is a good sign for pathologists to figure out, so is this tissue is inflamed or not, this tissue is normal or not. And if we can find these neutrophils in connective tissue, so we can conclude so this tissue is in inflammation. So that's why, keep it in mind. So and nucleuses, so you remember the shape of nucleus of normal neutrophils, it's multilobulated. So here it's visible. Okay, and eosinophils, same diagram. Eosinophils are present in connective tissue in sites of chronic inflammation and also in sites of allergic reactions. So they are not present too much in connective tissues, in normal connective tissue. Usually they are present in large amounts only in cases of inflammation, like allergic or protozoal inflammation. And their function is modulation of the inflammatory process. So function is similar as we discussed in blood. And now let's talk about, so you see I will hurry to let you go. So extracellular matrix, fibers. Let's talk about fibers. We have collagen fibers, reticular fibers, and elastic fibers. So composition of fibers, so collagen fibers, we have collagen type 1 and collagen type 2, and they are inelastic and eosinophilic. Eosinophilic is color, yeah, red in color. Reticulars, the collagen type 3, they are also inelastic, but they are branched unlike the collagen type 1, and they are argyrophilic. Argyrophilic means that they are able to be colored by silver stains. And elastic fibers, they possess some specific appearance, which I will show to you right now, and they are also eosinophilic like collagen. So collagen fibers. So this diagram, no need to learn by heart, but I just main idea that first of all, so collagen synthesis goes in rough endoplasmic reticulum, then produce the pre-procollagen, then pre-procollagen, so changed in Golgi complex into procollagen, then procollagen, so entered into the extracellular matrix, and produce tropocollagen, and tropocollagen then cleaves and forms the collagen fibril. And this collagen fibrils, they are get collected into collagen fiber. So 1 minute. Okay, that's function of that's features of collagen. They are produced by fibroblasts, of course. They're produced by fibroblasts first. So in okay, types of collagen. So that's more important. Type 1 collagen. So there, it's interstitial collagen, most common type of collagen, which is present almost everywhere. They're present also in bones. They're present in fibrous cartilage. They're present in most of our connective tissues like tendons, ligaments, and other capsules of organs. Yeah, this is most common type of. It forms a fiber bundles, and it's very tough collagen, so it's most widespread. Okay, type 2 collagen, it's typical only for cartilages, in hyaline and elastic cartilages, and we will discuss it in the next lecture. And type 3 collagen is present in elastic fibers. Oh, sorry, my bad. Type 3 collagen is in lymphatic tissues. It's known as reticular fibers. So you remember here I said to you that we have reticular fiber type, but it's made by type 3 collagen, collagen type 3. And they're present in lymphatic tissue because they provide a very gentle, mild supportion. So they surround the cells to give them more nourishment. They surround it to give a puff, so for the cells. And yeah, that's why they're a very gentle type of type of connective tissue. And type 4, so this chemically unique form, so it's responsible for basal lamina formation. You remember epithelial cells? We have basal lamina. This type 4 collagen is produced by epithelial cells predominantly, and they form in the basal lamina. And we have elastic fibers, and you see, unlike collagen fibers, these elastic fibers. So one elastic fibers are, you see, they're curved. They're curved in this wave-like form, wave-like shape. So because they have opportunity to shrink, and then and under the stress, it can become straight. That's why. So in histological preparation, so we already have deal with the dead bodies and unstretched tissues, yeah, and that's why we will always see this wave-like appearance of these fibers, and this typical appearance of elastic fibers. They are present in under the skin, for example, in and also present in a lot of around the blood vessels. They're present in large amount in arteries, and so they facilitate the stretchability of tissues. So everything, everywhere we can see the stretchable connective tissue, it is present with elastic fibers. But elastic fibers, they never present alone. They are always correlated with collagen fibers. Elastic fibers always go along with collagen fibers, and then it's like a little admixture, like in your shirt, yeah. So main part is a cotton, but our body producers of cotton, also producers of this t-shirt, so add there also some elastic components similar to our body. So we have a mixture of elastic fibers in collagenous fibers. And then reticular fibers, they are gyrophilic, and I wish to shift this ground substance explanation to the next lecture. So next lecture will be about cartilages. It's a very short lecture. That's why I will start to continue this lecture for you. And then finally we'll start to discuss cartilages. Okay, thank you. So guys, I'll check attendance now for a minute. 1 minute, something goes wrong. Okay, attendance. Okay, guys, my request to you. So every next, so every lecture, try to listen, try to read something, try to write something down in your notebooks. So later it will be easier to remember it. So you have this lecture. I'll share this lecture video to you, and you can read it again and again. And you can see this PDF of this lecture in Google Classroom, and get ready for classes according to syllabus I shared to you. So in next week classes, practical classes will be about blood. So this week, if we didn't have class, it will be about glands, and next week starts with a blood topic. So connective tissue. So I hope everyone gets the syllabus. I share to group leaders, so I hope you will get it. Okay. Next class we will continue the connective tissue and cartilages. Next lecture class. Thank you for attendance. Thank you for attention. See you next time. Any questions? If you have any questions, you can ask me now.
No, sir.
No questions, yeah?
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
goodbye.
Thank you, sir.